trees in my backyard. You are listening to Dad's Bad Baseball. I'm Adam Rosenberg with my buddy CJ Slippin' Jimmy. CJ, it's Friday, so how has your week been, buddy?
I mean, it's been a fantastic week here in the Northeast. It's been 75 degrees. It's been sunny. Taking the kids out to the park every day, as you know, as a father, that is a cheat code for killing wake windows. And
Yes,
love seeing my Metropolitans get a nice sweep of your Phillies this week.
we are going to talk about that. We have a couple of things that we'll talk about with that. Yeah, it's nice here, obviously, because I only live like 200 miles from you. Probably less than that. I lived less than that. It's probably like about 150, 180 from Boston to New York. Anyway, we have guys removing trees in our backyard, which is going to give more sunlight, which I could just push the kids outside more. But again, it is a cheat code. So why don't we start with the bad week for my Phillies and our Lord and Savior, Christopher Sanchez, and having arm tenderness in the start. That start didn't go off pretty well to begin with. So they're not doing an MRI. I don't know if I'm telling myself everything's going to be okay, because it's one of those I'm telling myself everything's going to be okay. But this is a very big sky is falling moment for the Phillies. And you as a Mets fan, I'm sure, are relishing in this.
I mean, yes. I'm relishing it just because the Mets are 8-2 against the Phillies in their last 10. And Citi Field has become a house of horrors for the Phillies. So it looks like am I on a little bit of delay?
You're a little bit on delay.
Okay.
You're a little on delay. Yeah, now I can. Can you hear me?
Cool. Okay. Yeah, I can hear you good. So okay, good. Yeah, I certainly love the rivalry aspect of it. I think you're going to want to talk about this a little bit more, but I don't think there is a huge difference though between these two teams. Like, I still think that the Phillies are a very good baseball team. And I think a point you made to me earlier this week was the Minnesota Twins led the league in ISO in April of last season. You can't put too much into April in terms of what teams necessarily look like or how bad they look or how good they look.
Yeah. I mean, that's why on our site, we focus on these 3 weeks rolling splits of just everything is actually, like, if you notice, it is 30-day splits, 30 across Baseball Savant, whatever it is, 30, 60, 90, 120s, plate appearances, innings, all that stuff, because that's kind of where sort of everything resets and you kind of go back. And one of the things that's kind of cool about yours and mine's friendship is I remember I was a super recency bias guy when you and I met, and you were let's look at the bigger picture thing. And we've kind of found a really nice way in the middle of being really good at betting baseball, simply because we kind of have merged both of these two. So yeah, the point that the one point I will make on this with the Phillies right now, I'm on the Phillies money line today. We were just talking about this before we got on air about the Phillies money line today against the Cubs. I think that a plus 140 line, I get it. It's Taijuan Walker, who has been good, against Colin Rea, going to a bullpen that is arguably not as good as that has been arguably just as bad as the Phillies bullpen at times. I think
worse than the Phillies bullpen.
It's been worse than the Phillies bullpen.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to, this is not a Phillies podcast, but my big thing with any team, right? If you get a divisional team that is a playoff team that is swept by a divisional rival, I would highly recommend to blind bet them in the next game after that, because the market is never going to really be lower on that team. We've seen it. We saw it all the time last summer with the Braves. We saw it all the time last summer with the Yankees. We've seen it with the Orioles at times, even though we are not on the Orioles anymore. But a lot of this is a lot of market perception, and it is a very good buy low spot on the Phillies. The final thing I will say on them before we move forward is that 15-1 is a crazy number for a World Series to me. It moved to 10 and then it moved to 15-1, which is a little bit far, in my opinion, for a team that was 7-1 going. I mean, it's not even, there's still a week left of April. So I rest my case on that one.
I mean, I guess to put a pin in it, I would just say that this kind of the perfect storm against the Phillies for momentum, right? I mean, especially a walk-off win, the bullpen, whenever you lose a game because of the bullpen, it's just inherently going to look a lot worse than if a starter has a bad outing. And also the Mets, this was their 7th in a row. It capped a 7-0 homestand. It's a team, again, that has played the Phillies very well in the past. So, yeah, totally with you on. I think I'm not necessarily interested in buying some of the futures on the Phillies right now, also because they're still, you mentioned the 15-1, they're still the 4th best odds to win the World Series.
Right.
So can tell
There's a huge gap. There's a big market width between the top and the middle there.
Totally. So I think that just tells me enough to know that this is still a team you want to buy on, but where you're going to get the value is exactly what you said. Oh, boy.
He's okay, folks. For those listening, he dropped his mic. There was not a Cloverfield situation. It was not a Cloverfield situation.
Not that case. But anyways, the sky is falling. My mic is falling. The Phillies are not falling. Go bet them on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. So
yeah. So okay. So what? A couple weeks ago, we talked about a guy mashing on the National. You were not here, actually. You were in Honduras. I talked about a guy mashing on the Nationals named James Wood. There is another guy who is rookie, who was going to be the rookie last year, who is rookie eligible this year, who is mashing. Why don't we talk about Dylan Cruz?
Yeah, I mean, I love me some James Wood. We could have a whole debate too, by the way, if the James Wood stuff is still real, like if that is actually going to stick. I tend to believe that there's some good things there that will, but the Dylan Cruz stuff. So I want to talk about Dylan Cruz a little bit because he had an awesome series against Colorado. I repeat, against Colorado in Coors. Okay. So I believe he hit 2 home runs in that series. But if you go and look at really a lot of his advanced stuff, especially like if you're on Baseball Savant, he cannot hit off-speed pitches at all. And his power numbers in general, if you're looking for a rookie that you want to back, maybe potentially like on a future, just doesn't really have the power that's quite there. I think that's not a coincidence. It took as long as it did for him to hit his first home run, but yet he faces the Orioles, he faces the Rockies, both obviously with bottom 10 pitching staffs. And he's the second favorite to win Rookie of the Year at least on DraftKings. He's plus 330. Roki Sasaki, who is plus 175 in that same market.
That's a market push. Yeah.
So insane. Both of those numbers to me. And so it just got me thinking, I don't necessarily buy into the Cruz just turning it totally around when he looked at, again, some of those matchups, and it doesn't surprise me against those teams, those staffs, that he was able to turn some things around. But is there anybody, because I'm looking down that list, Adam, and I'm going, I mean, is Drake Baldwin on there? And then I got a barrage of texts from you saying how dumb that bet would be.
First of all, I said you wrote in okay, for the people, you wrote, I would like to clarify the statement. You said this is interesting. I said this is not interesting. That's actually what
this is interesting for me to just obliterate CJ's take on this. That's what's interesting. Yeah,
you knew it was coming. Well, look, here's the thing. So there's a whole mosh of people, don't bet Rookie of the Year right now. Like, this is you and I are going to tell everybody firsthand. Wyatt Langford, who was arguably the most talented rookie in last year's class, closed at plus 125 and was 150 to 1 because he missed 6 weeks with a hamstring injury. And by the way, he had the 4th highest OPS the second half of the season last year. So
yeah, how's he look this year too, by the way? Just
yeah, I know. Well, I mean, it's so we both had Luis Gil liability that we got at like 70 to 100 to 1 in July. That market does not know how to price itself, because guess what? None of you and no one who's making these odds know who half of these guys are. They just heard Dylan Cruz, they do this, and that's what's happening. So my Drake Baldwin as an example of just not buying low. When you're capping anything for Rookie of the Year, and I agree with you, by the way, on Dylan Cruz. Dylan Cruz's biggest problem, and I was looking on our site while I was looking at this about what his oppo rates are, because they're still terrible. Because he was a line drive oppo hitting guy in college, and he still doesn't have it. He's pulling, which is what you got to do in the major leagues, but you are deadly if you are an oppo hitter. So my point is that capping rookie of the year, it's got to be someone who has a pathway to playing time. My issue with Drake Baldwin is that Sean Murphy happens to be mashing right now out of nowhere. And that is sort of putting a ceiling on it. We both have Drake Baldwin liability from the beginning of the season. He was mashing the ball. It wasn't getting out. But the problem is that he has somebody blocking him in front. Now, in terms of guys that I thought were interesting, if we really want to talk about it, that I thought were possibly interesting, I think buying low on Matt Shaw is interesting because we know that he's got he's starting third baseman. So he's not and he's out of option. Like they want to give him his job. Like they want him to do this. Like, especially since they're probably going to trade everybody.
Matt Shaw was a huge reason that they were able to even make the Kyle Tucker trade.
Exactly.
Because they said it on Paredes. Right. So yeah, this is a guy that the organization is definitely prioritizing the development of. And he was also, I believe, he was second or third favorite for rookie of the year.
He was like 6-1. It was very short.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we actually probably should buy him at 30-1 because we do like his seal. Like he could have, like, people forget that like PCA and Michael Bush had awful first halves of the seasons last year, and like PCA has now added this entire power element. PCA was we have him for triples leader and he's hitting the ball too far.
Yep.
So but the one that had, I started at the bottom of the list, and the only one that I did put anything on, it's a dart, and it's a donation dart, is I did put a little bit on Justin Crawford, NL Rookie of the Year at 130-1. He is playing in AAA. He is not a power hitter, but he is a run-producing guy. He's the Phillies' third highest prospect, so he's eager to get up. If you think that the cavalry is coming for the Phillies in terms of their outfield problems that they do have, and it's going to come in the form of a guy who's going to come in around June and potentially create runs, create opportunities, steal bases, get hits. He's second in the league in hits. By the way, you know who leads International League in home runs? Their former Major League catcher. I will give you that as a hint. Real fringe player, but I'll give you that. They were on the Padres.
Oh, God.
And they were on the Phillies.
It's so funny. You need to say former Major League catcher, and I don't know why, but the first person I just think of who would absolutely not be in this because there's no way he's playing anymore would be Joe Mauer. But it's
no, but that's really, I didn't realize when Joe Mauer retired, but no, it's Jorge Alfaro, who was a very highly touted Phillies wow. He leads him and you know who leads the International League in hitting is Will Brennan. So who we bet on a lot last year for the Guardians.
Oh, wow.
So anyway, my point is that
tune into our episode about international hits later.
Yeah, really. If you think that if you want to take a stab at something that could save the season at a long shot in terms of their outfield, like let's say he comes in, steals 25 bases, somehow gets close to 100 some hits in 400 at bats, like whatever it's going to be, dart. I think it's donation dart, but the thing is that this market fluctuates like crazy, so it's hard to really get an idea. As you were talking about a guy who's mashing and if it's real or not, let's talk about another guy who isn't real or not, because I've tried to fade them and it hasn't really worked out for me in the past 2.5 weeks. And that is former Yankees prospect. I like to say that because they gave up on him. Andrew Heaney of your Pittsburgh Pirates. CJ is a Pirates fan, or a Pirate. If I should say Pittsburgh. Yeah. Like I don't know if you're really. Are you?
Yeah. That's better accurate.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things where it's.
What are you thinking on? Yeah. My thing on this, my one point I want to make on this is that, first of all, none of the metrics that we actually care about, he's percentile. He doesn't have a super high chaser. He's like right under it, like 77th percent, 80th percent in walks. But he leads the major leagues in WHIP, and his ERA is 4th in the NL. Is this a guy that you think? I guess how do you play this? Is he even going to be on the team in July?
I mean, to answer the question definitively of is this real? I definitely think this is real. He has the lowest barrel rate of his career at around 6%, lowest expected, all of the expected metrics around expected batting average, expected WOBA, expected slugging, all of that lowest of his career, lowest hard hit percentage of his career. He's an older guy. His velo has continued to drop, but one thing I noticed when I was kind of looking at him a little bit closer was that he still has a fastball, even at 90 miles an hour, in the 7th percentile. Like his fastball has been excellent. He added a sinker. He added a curveball and a slow curve in the last year as well. And his matchups, he's played the Nats and the Angels, who are both very, very bad against left-handed pitching. But the Marlins are a 105 WRC plus against left-handers, and the Yankees are the best team in the league against left-handers when it comes to WRC plus. So again, it's a small look. It's 1 month, but I do think there's enough here to say that this should actually continue. The question is, how do you, if we're looking at this from a day-to-day market, are you still going to be able to get, for example, good prices on his under hits, under earn? I mean, I personally would be looking at like under earn runs for him, just because I'm looking at that low hard hit barrel and the low power numbers that he's giving up. And especially you mentioned,
and the whip's low.
Also,
so he's not letting base runners on.
Absolutely. So day to day, if you're still getting good prices on his earned runs, great. I mean, that's the market I would look at. But, futures wise, I will say this is a team in the Pirates that there's no way that Andrew Heaney is going to be on this team come end of July if the Pirates continue sort of the trajectory that they're on. So that to me is, I'm kind of like waiting to see if we can get some more information on teams that would be interested in him. I know you have a few that are in mind, but he would be a piece, for example, that if he gets traded to a team, let's just say like the Cubs, I'd be willing to buy more into their futures if he goes to another team who needs starting pitching like that. Because I do think that this actually is close to the guy we should be getting for most of the year. Yeah.
I mean, look, he was a highly talented prospect, but like you said, he's older and he doesn't do things by his velo. I think the Cubs are in it for every guy. I would like to see the Cubs go after Heaney more so than Sandy, because I think that Sandy's price is higher, even though they have all the pieces they can trade. Yep. I don't really think that the Pirates know how to fleece anybody on any trades. I think Heaney's gonna
they know how to get fleeced. They know how
Heaney's also been better than Sandy. You brought up a really good point as we go into a couple other things on different markets, but when you want to cap under earned runs on a guy, like look for guys with low whips and go to under earned runs for those guys. That's a really, really good thing to look at from a prop perspective, because everybody loves to bet K props and everybody loves to bet outs. I've gotten killed on Heaney outs because he pitched 3 straight games of 100 pitches, and I was like, "There's no way he's doing this," but he did. But earned runs is a really good call out, because I never even looked at the fact that he leads the league in whip. So earned runs is definitely a good way to go about this.
And by the way, his expected ERA, like if you look at his ERA right now, it's 1.72. Okay, he's not going to finish the season with a 1.72. If he does, if you really believe he's going to finish with that, go bet his Cy Young right now, because he will most likely win the Cy Young at a 1.72 ERA. But I mean, expected ERA is still 2.82 right now. So this is not a smoke and mirrors kind of thing, in that he's just been getting lucky and he's been allowing a lot of guys on base. He has been really good at as far as kind of making sure to keep guys off base, keep out the hard hits, et cetera, like that. So, we talked also about, you mentioned the Cubs. I just talked about the Cubs a little bit. Another team that I think could be in the market for another arm would be the Atlanta Braves, who we have talked, I think, quite a bit about.
That's a great call. That's a really good call.
And, especially we got to see what happens here with Strider. But that to me, Adam, is I think about series that I'm looking ahead to this weekend, and some teams that I am very interested to see, how the series plays out, and then also if there's an opportunity to bet on that series. I'm really circling for me the Atlanta-Arizona series, because look, it's April 25th. We just spent the first segment talking about how we can't take too much into account into April. It's kind of a prove it series for me for these two teams early on, because I want to see Atlanta, who's just won 5 out of 6. They won 5 out of 6. They also have played some pretty rough competition in those 5 out of 6, and they've obviously been able to start hitting the ball. are they going to be able to continue hitting the ball like they have in the previous 2 series? And are we going to see that against Gallen and Kelly this weekend? They're minus 105 to win the series. The Diamondbacks are like slightly favored on that that particular market. So is that a bet for me? I don't know if it's necessarily one I would put in right now, but I do think if you believe in Atlanta's hitting, this is kind of the series for me to start targeting the over hits, over team total, that kind of thing.
So I want to talk about a market that you could take instead of that I really like. First, if you are just joining, you stumbled across Dad's Bet Baseball. If someone said, here's a podcast and here's the middle of that podcast, I have no idea what it is. Dad's Bet Baseball, Slip and Jimmy, Adam Rosenberg, together talking baseball, talking dad stuff. You can follow us across same thing on all the socials, and you can like and subscribe, and we would love that. I wanted to talk about a market that you were kind of alluding to that I have loved hitting. That's a little juicier, but I think that the edge is greater than the juice. Total bases has been a real fun one. Shout out to friend of the program, as usual, Hall of Fame Bets. They have on their app, I haven't seen this on anybody else's app. They have a way you could track how each team has had on total bases over the course of their last week, over the 10 days, all those splits. You can see that. And you can also see, I match it to pitchers, teams that have given up a lot of hits, both their bullpen and whatever. The way to cap this effectively is look at a team that has a high ISO, because ISOs mean that you're getting a lot of bases. And then look at teams that have both equally not great bullpens and not great starters that are giving up a lot of contact. It doesn't need to be home runs, but look up ISO. You want the opposing ISO to be high. So hard hit is really going to be good there. I have loved this market. It is a really great way to play teams that hit well, but may not score runs. The Royals, the Tigers, this Braves team isn't scoring a ton of runs, but they are hitting the snot out of the ball. Phillies are another one of those ones.
The Mets, also
Mets.
one of these teams.
A lot of these teams. The market is usually minus 125, but it's a really cool market. It is below the fold on DraftKings, and I say that you scroll to the side, you go to team totals, you scroll all the way down, and you can find it. I have really enjoyed finding these kind of markets to bet on when it comes to this. And you kind of just brought up one like that's like I think Sales shoves tonight. Full disclosure, like it just looks. The line says 17.5, and he hasn't gone over that all year. Same way I thought that Burns was going to shove last night, and he did. His bullpen just let him down. I think that this is a really good sale spot. Diamondbacks haven't faced a left-handed starter since April 6th, so it's a really great op for the Braves. Are there any markets that you kind of have dug in below the fold? Because this is where we can find tons of value on betting on stuff, and it's a fun way to cap it.
I mean, we could dedicate another several podcasts on this alone, because this is where I like to live. Is where can I find some of these really weird markets? Like last year, you and I were both, I think, early in the season on number of hits allowed in the first inning, and looking at pitchers,
I remember that. It was
Kevin Gausman, which that's still a market, by the way.
Yeah.
That you can still go bet that on FanDuel. But I think that the other market that I think is kind of interesting, and I don't even know if it's so much below the fold, because it is one I almost consistently every book is going to have, which is team total runs by a specific inning. So on the surface, this seems like a kind of like a lot, like similar to a market where is the game going to end odd or even runs or odd or even points, right? Like it's like I'm just kind of throwing a dart and think that the team's going to score a run in this inning. Not so fast, because teams, especially later in games, if a starter, for example, they have 15.5 as their outs line, or we know that there's a good chance that the bullpen is going to enter the game early, you can be able to go and handicap this and see, for example, like, not to put this too close to the vest right now for you, Adam, and Jordan Romano, but if I know there's a good chance that Jordan Romano is coming in the 8th inning, I can probably find some good value on a team total overruns either 8th or 9th inning on that specific market. And what's also cool about that is that, especially for those 9th inning markets, for if you're looking for like ninth inning, money line, end in a tie, whatnot. Remember that ninth inning doesn't always fully get played. So there are opportunities there where you could bet the away team as the only team to play in that inning. The home team
I
doesn't
love
get
that.
up
I
bat
love that
because they're
market.
already up. And great, you basically just created a risk-free bet for you in the top of the ninth inning.
That's a really good market to bet when you have a favorite that you don't want to necessarily lay the juice on, but you think that they get it done and they're the home team. You can bet on DraftKings. You can bet the team to not bat in the ninth, and it usually takes like 20 cents off.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It's a good one. So we had talked about it. So for you, the critical series you're looking at this weekend is the Braves and the Diamondbacks. And I would say both those teams, I would agree. It's pretty important for both those teams to kind of really take off. The Diamondbacks have probably been the most exciting mid team this year. You would have no idea that their record is not as great as they're hitting. Corbin Carroll, 45-1 MVPs in pocket. That's 8-1 now, by the way. So the one that I'm looking at is our other future friend of the
league in home runs. He
does lead the league in home runs.
So
what a call. Well, the one that I am looking at is this Marlins. The Fish are going to Seattle, and we had talked about the other week, is the power surge in T-Mobile real? Mariners are hitting the crap out of the ball right now. And Max Meyer is going against Bryce Miller on Sunday, which obviously future friend of the program, Max Meyer. And what someone's going to come out of this very real. Either Max Meyer is going to get destroyed, and we know that T-Mobile is still becoming still a hitter friendly park, or Max Meyer is going to be the one who says, nope, I'm putting an end to this because I am Mad Max. 1-0 perfect game in T-Mobile, 27 up, 27 down. That's the one that I'm looking forward to. I think that I think that I'm going to still be taking Max Meyer K's in this game. I think it's a good park for that. I'm going to go with old school T-Mobile metrics. That's what I'll be looking at for that. I don't know, CJ, is there another one that you would look at or no?
I mean, also Seattle and the Marlins. That's why you come to this show to find out that the Mariners Marlins is the series you really need to keep an eye on. A good opportunity, by the way.
I can't believe I would ever say that.
On the Mariners lineup if you still don't necessarily believe they're as good as they are. The only other series, I mean, obviously Cubs Phillies should be great. I think that is at least a fun series to check out. I'm interested a little bit, I guess, in the Giants and the Rangers series, especially we've talked about him on the program before. Jack Leiter is supposedly going to be available back on Sunday. Very interested to see how he looks coming back. He's looked good in rehab, and Giants seem to maybe have cooled off a little bit from that hot start. So I kind of want to back Leiter on Sunday because I think we're going to get some pretty decent prices on him, since he's also kind of he had a good couple of first starts, got hurt, was good in his rehab starts, and now he's coming back up. So that's one other series that I think is kind of interesting. And also Texas is, they're honestly not really playing great baseball, but they're one of
their odds are really
short
for that division, given how they're playing. It's really short, too short, in my opinion.
Yeah, agreed.
So is their divisional record really good? Have I missed something?
I don't even know if they've even played that many divisional games.
I know they played
a series against the Angels, and they did play Seattle, but I
saw today it was plus 145, which is really short given how they've played. So
although I think part of that is we were both very high on the Rangers coming in. There's a lot of, I think, low hanging fruit for that team, especially from a lineup wise that we still quite haven't seen, and the pitching has been better than we anticipated coming in. So I think it's maybe more so related to that, and just that they've quote underachieved, but they're still 14-11.
Got it. No, that makes sense. All right. We normally will do an SGP here, and we use that Hall of Fame bets parlay optimizer. We will do it a little bit later. If we kind of have a bunch of things going on, so we'll post it on the @dads bet baseball account. But I think it's time for us to move to a dad move of the week. Producer Spencer has not great Wi-Fi because he is pet sitting, so he is not joining this one. But CJ, what is your dad move of the week?
I'm going to give a dad move you should not make this week instead of a dad move that you should make. Kind of like how we like to sometimes give out, don't go bet this future. It's poison.
Yeah. Mike Trout.
Never ever give your child chocolate as an incentive to get them out of the house. So there are two big no-nos about this. One is they will inevitably ask for more. And that, I mean, if you don't have more chocolate, then meltdown will begin because of the sugar high. But the second biggest thing is that you literally are creating your own mess that you have to go and clean up. So there are many different things that you can give your child to get them out the door. I've used pretzels. I try to usually use a granola bar as an incentive, which my daughter loves. I tried chocolate. I honestly, it might have just been lack of sleep. And that was a big no-no. So for all the dads out there, if you have trouble getting your kids out of the door and getting them to school, especially if there's a chocolate bunny, do not give that to them. That is talk about poison. That is going to basically be giving yourself poison.
That is a good one. We had that experience on Monday. Monday after Easter was worse than the day after Halloween for my kids. It was
wow.
They were psychopaths. The dad move that I would have of the week is, as it is getting warmer, always volunteer to go grill and cook whatever you're going to do outside, because there seems to be this unwritten code between significant others that if you are at the grill and you are making the food, you are not to be bothered. And it's a really great time to be able to get in any bet, to get in and text back any friends or do whatever. And because you can basically say, I can't watch the kids, I got to watch the food, and you don't want to get salmonella, and everyone believes you. So I highly recommend doing that as it's getting warmer. I did this the other day when I made hot dogs. I was also able to get in some power play points bets for the NHL playoffs. And that is my dad move of the week.
Can I just add one quick note to that? Because I fully agree with this one. This is a great one. Grilled chicken, because grilled chicken takes longer.
Oh, good call. Yes.
So, because grilled chicken usually, like, you got to have that thing on the grill for like 45 minutes.
Yeah, you can't have people getting sick.
Right. And it's also super obvious if you've got like pink chicken or something and you're bringing that back in. So yes, grilled chicken to add on to that is going, if you really want some extra time, that is definitely a good move to make.
I concur. So we've learned the two things that we've learned in the last month that give you extra time to yourself are grilling chicken and throwing away all the diapers in the house so that you have to go out and go get more. It's great. All right. So thanks everybody. We're going to be back next Wednesday. We'll be back. We have a special hybrid baseball Kentucky Derby episode with our buddy Chase, the Wolf of Oaklawn. He will be here. Special shout out to our friends at Hall of Fame Bets. We're going to have a code for them next week, so we can help you guys out with them. They're a lot of fun. For CJ, Slip and Jimmy, who is at Dad's That Bet, and Spencer, our producer, at Spencer_Ray, Ray RAY. I'm Adam Rosenberg at Hey Rosenberg. Follow us on at Dad's Bet Baseball on YouTube and on X, and we will see you next week. And good luck with your bets. And if you have kids, good luck with them all weekend. Take care. Bye now.
Take it easy, everybody.